Hello and welcome to episode 97 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Drogan1701. With me is a man who hacked into a White House, but not the White House, Greendragoon.
Turns out to me it was my own White House.
And you hacked into it with an axe and not a computer, so...
Oh, I'm sure it'll be covered under the insurance.
And we also have with us a candidate for the role of Bit in the new Tron film, Markhawkman.
Well, someone has to do it, right?
I hope people remember the character of Bit from the original Tron.
I remember
Probably no one but me.
I vaguely remember most of the characters from the original Tron, but I don't remember all of their names.
I mentioned Tron because everybody is so convinced that the new Iconian rep armor looks Tron-like. And I actually think it does too, but I'm okay with that.
The funniest comment about that was someone asking us when we get those disc weapons.
Yes. Totally want a disc weapon. Also joining us tonight is Primar13, who thankfully has already broken his quota of things for the evening, so the rest should go very smoothly.
We hope.
So, because Dragoon was complaining a little bit off the air last time, let me just say that, you know, we do talk about things going on in the rest of the game, but that's okay, because the Foundry doesn't exist in a vacuum. And most, if not all, Foundry authors are also players. I'm sure Dragoon is laughing because he wasn't really complaining.
I'd say that. I should listen to what I say more often.
You weren't really complaining, but you did make a comment. And so, you know, like last week going through the Rebirth launch build, kind of gives people a glimpse of how things were before the Foundry. Indeed, even that content there, that's where the bulk of the assets and maps that we have available to us come from, was that era. And then the week before, you know, talking about in-game missions can serve a lot of Foundry-related purposes, like identifying assets, maps we like to see imported, as pie in the sky as that may be, discussing storytelling or map-building techniques that Foundry authors can use, and, you know, plot points from the main game that people will need to know about if they want to write their missions to fit in with the cryptic plot. So that's why we occasionally talk about things outside the game.
I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, we're just as much fans of the main game itself as we are of the Foundry.
Oh, absolutely. Although, you know, I admit there were times when I essentially just played the Foundry. I mean, I wasn't interested at all in the rest of the game. Frankly, probably since like season 8 before the Legacy of Romulus?
No, it was the first one after it.
That was the first one after. Well, you know, since Legacy of Romulus.
LOR was 7.
Yeah. Since about Legacy of Romulus, I've actually flipped the other way, where I actually play more of the game itself than I do in the Foundry.
I tend to go to phases, going both ways.
Absolutely. I do as well. But for tonight, we're essentially all Foundry, because there's news. Taco has added more stuff to the Foundry. Let me run through the patch notes. Added Earth Space Dock as a UGC map, although there is a problem with the floor on that one. Essentially, what is it we call it? The zero value for...
Room platform.
Platform is not set, or is set somewhere really weird.
Yeah, it's like about a couple 100 feet below Earth Space Dock right now.
I think he just said that it's not properly set. It might actually be set to map 0.
Yeah. And I think it's actually a little worse than I thought, because I did a little testing this morning, and setting at the highest Y value I could on 0 value and room platform, I still couldn't get on the map.
Mm. Well, he did say he could fix it, but it was going to take time to do. So, but you know, this is stuff that's going to be for season 10, so there is still a lot of time to get that done. So hopefully he will be able to do that.
And you said there was a chance he might have to pull the map.
Yep. Which we're totally not blaming you for, by the way.
No, just cast.
Because you were the one who did find that out. But obviously, we want that to be functioning properly when we get that map in, because I think a lot of people don't change that the y relative to value. I think a lot of people don't necessarily change that. So you want it to be sort of that easy mode where you can just place an asset on the map and it's in the right spot, especially the spawn point.
Particularly newer Foundry authors, they need to be able to get started at least, and then we can give them a little more training over time.
Absolutely.
And our space dock has several levels, so
Yeah, well, the first thing I always think of in situations like this is that the sooner you find bugs like this, the better.
yeah. And I mean, and Taka knows about it now, so
So he also added numerous Earth space dock map support objects, including turbolift and Club 47 doors, ops holographic consoles, and ship markers.
Yeah.
I think these are the animated things that essentially we can use to fill that back in, because those would have had to have been locked off on the original map.
So
Yeah,
a lot of these.
They're the little tags, the ship name tags that orbit around the little holographic display, along with he added the effect lights in Club 47 for the dance floor and the pillar out in the hallway, which is pretty cool.
And it should be said that a lot of these could be used elsewhere as well, especially those lights.
Especially the little holographic ship display.
Absolutely.
Although the Club 47 door, since there's nothing really about it that's truly unique to Club 47, you could use that in pretty much any.
Because it doesn't say Club 47 on it.
It's just a really fancy wooden
It's a
door.
fancy, cool door.
With
I
a
totally
giant
use it.
Federation logo.
It's curved too,
Well, okay,
which might
so
make
you
it a
could
little tricky, but
We're creative people. We can get around stuff like that.
And most
Yeah.
of the walls we have are just thick enough that it might hide it.
And I should say that normally we would be logging over to Tribble to actually look at these objects, but it was just taken down for maintenance right before the show. So we will have to do that another time. We do have screenshots of the stuff coming up, though, because the next note is added ground scale ship models to be used in the ESD docking bay and other maps. So we have just a rather large library of full-size ship models now that we can place in our map. So, Dragoon, if you want to start the screenshots.
I counted a total of 50.
50. Good Lord.
yeah. And I mean,
And that's a lot of Fed, one KDF, we only have the Moog, a lot of Romulan, but we got a large amount.
Of
Yeah.
course, but by 50, what he means is that something like a third of the ships in the game. It's still, more than we had before, and quite nice to have.
Well,
Well, I mean-
we had none before, really, except for a
Exactly.
couple of shuttles. Because
No, but I mean-
included in this are a bunch of shuttles and work bees and runabouts.
and it's definitely nice because Takafangs is usually incredibly thorough about these sort of things. So he didn't just go out and grab like the ships around ESD. He went out and grabbed the Vodwar ships and some Romulan ships. And
Yeah,
a bunch of
almost anywhere you could think of that there were full-size ships on a map, he got them.
He even grabbed both
Like the
versions.
landed Kestrel shuttle that you see at New Romulus.
Yeah, and the
He
one
even
without landing pads.
Both versions of the damaged one from Virenat he grabbed.
That's cool.
What is that? A Romulan?
It's a Talis. But there was
Yeah.
one version when you just started that was just slightly rusted, and then the one that's completely obliterated.
That's pretty awesome.
One of them looked like it had been scrapped for parts 100 years ago, and now the only thing left is the frame, and that people have been slowly pulling pieces off of that.
Now, see, if you got some TOS missions, especially with Romulans in them, that could be very useful for you.
And what's really nice is a number of these ships that he pulled from missions are landed versions.
Yeah,
So you can have them.
like the Vodwar and the. I was playing around with the shuttles and work bees, and there's a lot of the work bees have their landing struts out. And the nice thing about a lot of those shuttles is that they don't require any Y value manipulation. You just put them on there, and they're fine.
Now,
That's
has
one
anyone
of the
seen,
The Vodward needs to be raised, but
now has anyone seen if the landed bird of prey is in?
Oh, you mean the one from Doomsday Device? That would be
Doomsday
nice.
Device.
and
It
it's
makes an
outside the
appearance
shipyard, isn't it?
outside
I
the
did not
shipyard.
actually
Pulling up
see
shipyard?
that one.
Okay.
I didn't think I saw that one.
I
But
haven't seen it, but I
I
didn't
can
look
check
at them.
again, but the only KDF one I saw was Moog. But I can check again later.
So we want to thank Primar and Sir Boulevard and Johnny Snowball for the pictures that we're showing.
What's also really cool is
Sir
and it kind of
Sir Boulevard is saying then no bird of prey. Something else.
a lot of these ships are to scale, but available on ground, and this makes them incredibly useful for doing things like hull walking. Although it's a little tricky because they're not the highest detail when you get really close to them. A lot of them don't have enough detail, but
they're,
some
they're
do, and
usually
some you
meant to be viewed from far away.
something I know I'm going to be doing is doing the airlock transition, similar to what you see in Temporal Ambassador when you're running up to the Enterprise C.
Yeah, out the little gangway to the Enterprise C.
So
That's
lots
great
of
because
cool
I mean
things.
we have that model, the Enterprise C.
Yeah, as well as quite a few others. I mean, the interior section of Earth Space Dock had like a good chunk
Yeah, it had a
of
lot of ships,
starships.
I think it had 8 or 9 ships on it.
and they've been swapping them out as they make new ships. You know, when they made the Pathfinder, it went in there, and when they made the whatever that new little patrol escort was, they put that in there. Tempest.
I want to say I'm not sure that we have all of them, but we do have a good chunk, and I mean certainly enough that
A really good chunk.
authors can do some really interesting things. I mean, you can see in some of these pictures. I'm sure there's plenty of people already getting ideas.
Yeah. Now, it should be mentioned that some of them are extremely large. The Odyssey, for instance, and the big Romulan ship.
The Mogai is insanely massive. It was so big I could not get a screenshot of it. And one other thing with Earth Space Dock that Taku did was he added in the invisible wall objects, but instead of just leaving it to us to build them, he took all the invisible walls on it, he made it one asset and made it droppable. And then he made all the invisible walls from just the shuttle bay, and he made that a single asset so that we don't have to spend buku invisible walls to try and seal off like these used to be.
That's why I love Taco.
Or we can just not seal them off and go into the shuttle bay.
I love
Like
Taco because
apparently everybody wants to do.
he thinks like we do. So oftentimes when he's putting these assets in, he's kind of thinking about the same scenarios that we tend to think about.
He's a closet Foundry author.
I don't think
Although he says he's tried the tool and doesn't much care for it, I think, compared to what he's used to.
He's got the the grown-up tools.
Well, when you said that the Mogai is giant, I mean, how big is it in comparison to the other ships?
I have to have Primar field that one because I didn't look at that one specifically when I was there.
Helps if I push the right push to talk button. It's extremely wide, and the map I was on, I actually had the field of view extended to like 95, and I was zoomed all the way out, and I still couldn't fit it in the frame. At that point, so warped, but it's extremely wide, the wings.
Well, I mean, one of the observations that I've made from the many times I've flown one in the game is that the in-game version of the Mogai is actually wider than it is long.
It is. And I think part of it is
basically a giant wing with a neck attached to it.
the Mogai and the Romulan ones are from the flotilla, so they're meant to be seen from rather far away compared to the Earth Space Dock ones.
But I'm just thinking about it, and in one of my missions that I'm actually revising right now, I have this situation where you're down on the ground and you're getting bombarded from space, and I could put one of the ships up there so you could actually see what's firing at you.
Mhm.
as the explosions go on around you.
Yeah.
Have somebody say, "Look in the sky."
Well, I mean, it's like the Craterus mission where you look up in the sky and you see this giant Alachi ship as it starts beaming down all
Mhm.
sorts of Alachi stuff to attack you and shooting the place up.
Absolutely. So here's a question: do we have the Alachi ship?
Not that I've
I
seen.
don't remember hearing of that.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I imagine they were doing something special with that because I mean it was
It was
moving
animated.
and
It was moving. Yeah.
Oh, of
shooting
course.
actual
Yeah.
torpedoes.
Ours will have to be static, obviously.
So they just put up the Tribble notes, and they have added more spawn points, I think, in sector space. Well, those are respawn, maybe. Who knows?
Open
But
those up.
Tribble notes are up.
Tribble notes are up. April 8. Let's see. Resolved an issue that was causing UGC missions to fail published in the beta quadrant. I wasn't actually aware of that, but okay. Added more respawn points throughout sector space.
This is listed under Foundry.
It's listed under general. I'm not quite sure what that means.
I'm wondering if that's when you get booted out of a
when it says respawn points, that's what it does when you do things like, well, like you said with red alerts, but also it applies if you change instances. Because whenever you change instances, it will put you in what amounts to a default spawn point on the map. But since the game was using sector blocks before, there was only one for each sector block. And one cool trick you could do to get to Earth space dock faster when you're all the way at the other end of Sirius block is to just change zones, and it'll automatically warp you to Earth space dock. Because that's what the default spawn point for the Sirius block currently is set to. Regulus is way down in the bottom left corner near the Briar Patch. But when they switch this from sector blocks to just the beta quadrant, I think they're going to need to like change those so that each map square has its own default spawn point. And that's probably what they're talking about.
So it looks like most of the patch notes are about pilot bridge officers, which is interesting because I don't think they really have any ships yet to test them out on, but that's a separate issue. So let's see, back to the previous patch notes. One other thing is we have added a number of space stations. This is something that didn't quite go as planned because they ended up being added as ground objects and not space objects. But we're actually pretty cool with them being added as ground objects for a variety of reasons, including the fact that you could put them outside of windows and be like you're in space and you can see a space station.
This isn't actually the first time they've accidentally added space objects to ground, because some of the vortex effects for the giant space portal things can actually be used as ground objects, and one of the Borg beacon things can also be used as a ground object.
Yeah. Now Taco did say he believes he's found the way to add them as space objects, and I think keep them as ground objects. One of the cool things is is a lot of them, like the tops of it look like buildings. So like, especially the vault. The vault looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean
you could use that
that's
as a
its own city.
The vault and the Klingon ones are really nice.
Yeah. They're big, but they're not 1-to-1 scale with ground characters. They would be correct scale with space, but not ground. So they're big, but they're not life size. I think he has made that fix and wasn't sure when it was going to go live though.
Yeah, he said he checked it and he's just waiting on it to go through.
Yeah, and it's hard to say how long that takes to get to a build that actually will go up on Tribble. But as always, I say it's worth taking a look at the Foundry after every Tribble build you can, because you never know when something's going to be not in the patch notes.
Yes, we've already been seeing a couple of new bugs that are developed. Seems there's some
Best.
issues with the imagery that items use when they're placed on
Yeah, on the
on
two-dimensional
maps.
map.
When you're in the editor itself, we thought it was originally just the starships, but I found all assets.
Whatever generates those preview images is acting up.
Well, it's always been wonky because the preview that you see when you're in the map editor never looks like the map you see when you're playing the mission.
Well, no, because it's basically a static imagery with items that you've placed on just based on their
Oh, right. What you're talking
their
about is
order.
that certain things are just horribly distorted out of the correct size. Okay, yeah.
Well, yeah, it is not displaying their correct size, and all the pixels are distorted. So hopefully they'll be able to get one of the
And
people familiar with it.
I was
take a
using
look.
the hex floor, and as you drag it around, it kind of looks like a kaleidoscope, and it's constantly changing colors. It's hilarious.
The other note was that they added or updated the UGC version of the Bajor planet to actually use the proper texture. So I think apparently it looked something like Cardassia before.
If I remember right, the Foundry version of Bajor actually predated the Dominion FE series, and when they made the Dominion FE series, they updated the appearance of Bajor.
No, they just said it looked like a mud ball.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. That it looks like a
in any
mud ball
case, it is
before then.
It is now the proper, or it will be whenever this goes live. It will be the proper texture. So, why don't we move along to real quick what we've been working on? Primar, tell us about your shuttle bay.
One thing that Sir Boulevard pointed out yesterday with those starships is that they're actually hollow on the inside. So I was testing today about building the Odyssey shuttle bay. So I threw the ship model on the map and started laying out walls and testing the map 1.5 million times, and I pretty much got the bones of the shuttle bay working. I've got about 4 Denabes in it, and 4 Yellowstones, and then I think I got 10 Type 8s all in the shuttle bay. I just have to add in a control room tomorrow. But I had a lot of fun with it. And I put this giant crane attached to the ceiling to get the shuttles down onto the floor. But one thing that's really nice is as you look out the big door, you can see the nacelles and the lower half of the ship. It looks pretty nice so far.
Yeah, that's really good. So yeah, I mean, it's a good example of the kind of possibilities that we can do with these big ships.
And this is actually built inside the model of the Odyssey. If you zoom the camera out from the other direction, the wall will appear and you'll see the shuttle bay door.
Awesome. All right, Mark, what have you been working on?
Well, the most recent thing I worked on was tinkering with both the OSA Patrol mission that I've been trying to build and haven't quite finished yet. Been preoccupied with Delta Recruit stuff over the weekend. And the other thing was working a bit on that TAS Redux mission. And, well, I suddenly remembered why I left it in unfinished state in the first place. Because, see, the storyline as it starts is you're looking for a missing Federation ship. Then, you find this wormhole-like thing which leads you into a subspace pocket. Oh, and you find out that the ship that you're looking for has Orions trying to do something or other with it. I'm going with shoot repeatedly, but yeah, something like that. Anyways, then when you finally get into the subspace pocket, you find the ship, and then you find that the place has people living in it. And then you talk to the people and find out that they have this problem with Borg nanoprobes that they picked up from somewhere. When I was originally working on this, I remember that I came up with this idea because I was looking through the list of assets and realized that we have versions of several races that have a very, very slight Borg infected status. So it looks, it's a Romulan wearing a Romulan uniform, but they have that Borg infected complexion instead of their regular complexion, and maybe like one or two small things visible. And I just decided I wanted to play with that and have them as like normal people with a problem. And couldn't think of a good story for it, so I shelved the project and worked on something else for a few years.
Yeah, it's funny because this week I went to go play a mission so I could review it. And I decided that I was going to play the first top 10 mission I came across, which happened to be this very mission. So I got to see your mission in its pretty unfinished state. You had some cool map work going on.
Oh yeah, I love setting up that thing inside that wormhole thing, because in the actual cryptic mission that wormhole asset is from, you only actually see half of the wormhole. The official cryptic mission never uses the second half of the wormhole.
Yeah, I kind of think they just duplicate the Bajoran wormhole, change the color, and cut it in half.
No, not really. The Bajoran wormhole interior, I don't remember what that looks like, but this is from some mission with Hirogen that are.
Well, no, I mean,
annoying.
yeah, that version is, but I have a feeling it was just copied the Bajoran wormhole from the Rapier mission to save time.
I don't know. I'll have to check and see.
All right. So besides picking perhaps the wrong mission out of the top 3, what have you been working on, Dragoon?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing Delta Recruit stuff, so I'm working on my character here.
I should mention that we are all gathered here at Deep Space Nine with our Delta recruits. I have also been mostly working on my Delta recruit, but I've been doing a separate UGC thing lately, which is getting all my character bios written for my in-game characters. Because I've learned that people actually do read those. I've gotten several compliments on mine just from people who randomly go around reading people's bios. So, if that's something you enjoy, writing backstories for your characters, do it in-game as well as in the Foundry.
I actually have written bios for some of my characters, but usually they're kind of short and brief, and I don't know.
I tend to keep mine to about 3 paragraphs. I figure, there's no reason to write a novel. Just, hit the broad strokes. So, let's see. I have a brief mission review. I played a mission called U.S.S. Intrepid Rescue by Durango 4. This was somebody who played one of my missions and then sent me an email requesting that I play one of theirs, which is great. People, please go ahead and do that. I will definitely... it took me a while to get to this guy, but I will definitely do that for people. So the USS Intrepid is missing. It's carrying a special secret cargo, and you're tasked with finding it. You start out at Vulcan, and you scan for the ship, and you find some sensor readings that tell you it's very far away from the planet, which is actually good because obviously, even though it took me a long time to get to the objective, I didn't mind because if it was close to the planet, they wouldn't have needed me to find it. One thing that, and this is for everybody, the author had some inconsistent capitalization in his writing, and I think whatever scheme of capitalizing the letters that you go with, just make sure you're consistent. And I think most people will just go with it. Personally, I tend to not capitalize a lot of things like warp core, even though this author did. That's probably because I come to it from the journalistic AP style writing, where you actually don't capitalize a lot of letters. You tend to save that for proper nouns and things like that. But just whatever capitalization scheme you want to go with, just make sure you stick with it. Let's see. So he had one where you actually, when you board the Intrepid, he makes a point several times of saying that there's no power anywhere on the ship. And if there was no power, then everything would be off. There'd be no lights, no consoles, or nothing, which is not something we can really do in the Foundry. So what I would recommend to anyone in this position where they want power to be off, you just say there's emergency power only. That way you can still have things like, nothing's working, but the consoles are still on.
Or you can just say something like there's emergency lighting.
Or
Yeah.
or phrase it as main power is off.
Yeah,
and have like little auxiliary things that don't make the ship go.
Because then you can still have the objectives of restoring main power, but then you don't have the sort of immersion breaking thing of, well, you said power was off, but I can still see where I am, and the consoles are still lighting up and things like that.
Not that
So
wouldn't be a fun challenge to try and do a completely dark starship.
Now I could see if we had some consoles that were turned off, you could do it, because we have some very dark backdrops, like the Nopata desert night, and so you could do it that way. But if you're on a ship, there's going to be consoles everywhere, and unfortunately, we don't have any that are just black texture.
They really need to give us the one from What Lies Beneath.
After playing that mission, I'd like to have the lights on.
Actually, well, one thing I realized when playing What Lies Beneath over the weekend on my Gorn was that there are actually a lot of lit up consoles in that area of the map that's, like almost completely black out. I noticed this when in a situation where I had a lot of extra time to look around the map, because one of the Davidians had gotten stuck inside the ceiling, and for whatever reason I couldn't shoot it, but my bops were standing there plinking away at it. So I looked around at the map while they finished killing the thing, and realized that there was this extra catwalk above the area that had a ramp leading up to it that it was completely unused in the mission. But if you go up there onto the ramp, you see a bunch of consoles that are, lit up like normal, even though the rest of the map is blacked out.
I think there used to be an optional up there. There used to be some special reward at that console you had to go claim.
This is that one where you fight Gain, the insane hologram. You know the one.
Yeah,
the guy
I always end up with I always end up with.
I don't remember ever actually attempting to go up there before killing Gain. Maybe it's like a special way you killed Gain without actually fighting him. I don't know. I just killed the guy.
Well, anyway, so he has one sky castle in this mission. He does some good custom work. It looked to me like maybe it was one of the first ones he had tried, because he didn't. We had the texture overlap, or we had some kind of technical name for that, didn't we? Dragoon, if you remember.
Oh, I thought it was like officially, I think Tomb Boy called it Z fighting.
Z fighting.
I just tend to call it clipping.
Yeah. But in any case, obviously you can get rid of that by offsetting walls by 0.001 or some other small value. One thing, and what what I like to do with my reviews is essentially come up with advice for the author and all authors. So another piece of that is to be careful spawning people inside turbolifts, because your bridge officers can get stuck in the walls, and unfortunately, if you have a team, then it can get players stuck in the walls. I don't think I ended up needing my bridge officer on that map anyway, but there's a particular one where he spawned inside. The best way to do it is just spawn right outside the turbo lift in the hallway or whatever room you're in.
Yeah, since most cryptic missions do it that way, no one really thinks twice about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, essentially the bottom line on this particular mission is the plot was good. He had good characters, and really the problem with it was a good example of too many maps. I think it must have been towards that 15 map limit, but it didn't need to be, because we had some very short sequences on a map. You have very few objectives, and you're on to the next map. So what I would recommend to him is that I think there was at least 2 maps that he could have eliminated just by making that Sky Castle bigger, because it was set to be one part of the ship interior of your ship, actually, and it could have been expanded to be more parts of the ship. So if you're going to build a Sky Castle, make sure it does everything you need, and you can eliminate some map transitions that way. But otherwise, it was a good mission. It was definitely a solid 3 stars, and if he can tighten it up a little bit, it would definitely get a higher rating for me. All right, that is my review. So, as a topic for tonight, since we're all here with our Delta recruits, I thought I would ask you guys to brainstorm a little bit, because so far, I don't know about you guys, but I've been really enjoying the Delta recruit stuff. The only disappointment I would have thus far is that it doesn't involve the Foundry. So what do you guys think? How could it involve the Foundry? We still have a lot left. They could implement some stuff before it ends. So what do you guys think?
What if it had given everybody 10,000 dilithium so they could at least create their account?
Well, we know that they have the ability to create these vouchers that you can only use. They act like dilithium, but you can only use for certain things, like fleet gear or rep gear. So I don't know. Maybe they could do a Foundry voucher.
I would argue that as far as new players, we don't have a shortage of authors. We have a shortage of players playing Foundry missions. So I would rather see a reward towards that, or push towards that. I thought it'd been kind of cool to have one of the goals you complete, say, like play 5 or 10 Foundry missions.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I also kind of been thinking along those lines. However, the problem becomes is how do you make sure it isn't abused? And
then you make it play 5 missions from the top 3 system.
Oh, well, there's a reason why why they changed the way that the old Foundry wrapper worked.
And the other thing is,
playing 5 missions, that's not going to be something you can do within an hour most of the time, unless they're missions that are specifically designed to be short.
Well, I mean, you could put in restrictions, say that it has to be like 5 unique missions. You
ones
can't
that
play the
qualify
same 5.
for the rewards.
Yeah, 5 qualified unique missions.
And nothing says there needs to be a time gate on it.
Well, one thing that I've always thought would be a good idea is for them to do it so that it's play a new mission that you've never played before. That seems like a good one to me.
Oh, that's what I meant
it does
by
seem
5
to
unique.
it does seem to be able to track when you've played a mission.
Of course, I mean, when you look things up in the database, you can read the review that you gave it previously.
Yeah. So if the system can track that, then yeah, it should be able to tell that you're playing a mission for the first time, and have it tick over a counter. So yeah, that's one way. I would almost shy away from what you said, Primar, making it only missions in the top 3, because top 3 missions are going to get plays no matter what, because they're more visible. So you would want it to maybe just be all Foundry missions, so maybe promote a little bit the ones that are in the list, but not in the top 3.
I mean, in some cases, someone might even accidentally play a top 3 mission because certain system locations, that's literally the only interact.
Yeah, I actually accidentally entered a Foundry mission the other day when I was trying to enter a main cryptic mission.
You completed, or did you back out?
I backed out. I should have completed it, but I know it was bad of me. I should have completed it.
But yeah, I mean, I think having like one of those goals in the Delta Recruit UI be for Foundry missions is really about as far as I would expect them to take it.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, something like a server-wide goal would be a little overkill. As much
Probably.
as it would be fun to force the entire server to play as many Foundry missions as they can.
How
And
many
really, I
people
don't.
would play Admiral Bobo 50 times?
Between Admiral Bobo and just the Dill Grinders.
Yeah. There's even, I mean, because some of those qualify for rewards, so even if you made it that, it would probably be abusable, you might say.
Like players making their own grind.
Essentially.
Then complaining that there's too much grind.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe that was a shorter
that is
topic than I thought.
interesting because a lot of people, the reason why they complain that the game is too grindy is because they literally want to have everything you can possibly have in the game. It's kind of like that Pokemon gotta have them all sort of thing, but in this case, it's lockbox ships that they want to have all of.
And you know what? And something that I pointed out to Taco when he was having a little bit of a crisis of confidence before Delta Rising, he was reading the forums and there was lots of negative stuff about it. And I was saying, you know how many people of these complainers, they're going to complain, but you can bet they're going to play it anyway.
Yeah.
Just the sheer amount.
Yeah, I mean,
for this event.
If they stopped playing the game, they'd have nothing to complain about.
By and large. So the other thing we forgot to mention in the news section is I say we, but you know, the StarbaseUGC guys, sort of on behalf of the Foundry community, delivered another batch of baked goods to Cryptic today. This time it was the top 3 pies, sort of as a reward for the top 3 system, which most of us seem to like. They got them 3 pies and made a little graphic card to go with it. It was like a little play on the top 3 system. So obviously we definitely join everybody in thanking Cryptic for that, because I think it's a great system. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, I mean, anecdotally, it seems like there's been a very large jump in new plays because of it. I don't have any sort of hard facts to back it up, but
yeah, in like 6 months, I'd love to see the numbers.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they were tracking Foundry plays. we know
sure
they were
they
tracking
track
missions, because we know they said there were 88,000 missions, but I couldn't tell you if they were tracking plays.
Oh, I'm sure they track everything. Because I mean, Gecko has come on and said that he's known for, or knew that Foundry plays was an issue. That it was really hard to justify development with such low interaction with the Foundry, and that the top 3 system was meant to directly address this issue.
Now, I think we're probably in an anomalous zone right now, because there's a game event that is encouraging people to play the official missions more than Foundry missions right now. So I think probably you're going to see a little bit of a slowdown during the
Truthfully, since this has been giving people reasons to play missions and go to regions they haven't been going to for a while, I've actually noticed an increase in the amount of plays from the top 3 system.
Oh, that's good. Maybe I'm wrong.
But again,
Some say it happens.
that's the top 3 system, not people
Yeah.
looking things up the hard way.
Right. Well, like I said, that was a shorter topic than I expected. The Delta recruits. So I don't know. Anybody else got another topic?
Well, one thing I was pondering about is how to write storylines that hook into the story of the whole Delta recruit thing. Because
yeah.
you have all these, like Iconian artifacts and all these various different explanations of what they are, why they're there, and so on and so forth. I mean, because
Dragoon, if you want to throw up the spoiler tag real quick.
Oh yes,
it's not that much of a spoiler, but warning from here on in is spoilers for the Delta recruit system. So what happens is essentially your future self, from when you're an admiral, comes back in time to warn your younger self, when you're a new player, that the Iconian War is coming, and these various items and information have been seeded throughout the timeline that you're going to be experiencing, and you need to go look at them and gain information and insight into the Iconians and find them in various missions.
I gotta say, the fact that our future self comes back to see our previous self, that is great. Me and my fleet guy spent the last 2 weeks trying to figure out which celebrity guest was going to be coming back in ever since we read the line that a future admiral was coming in. And then the fact find out that it's ourselves, it blew all our minds.
It was definitely not what I was expecting.
Nice to see they can still blindside us.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of things about in the individual Delta objectives that are really interesting, though, and some that are, shall we say, what's the word for it? Extraordinarily mundane. Like the Delta recruit objective aboard the Azura is one that I would put in the extraordinarily mundane category, because at first glance it seems to be this really, really boring thing. Like, oh, we found this object on board the Azura. It's broken. It's just a piece of inert metal made from alloys normally found in the Delta Quadrant. Whatever. On to the next thing. And then you stop and it's like, wait a second. If this is just a piece of broken junk, where the heck did it come from? It wasn't put here on the Azura intentionally. It's just a piece of junk someone picked up and the Azura happened to have in their cargo because they were taking it off to be recycled for scrap. I mean, so some of the objectives actually tell their own story, but there's that one where it's just kind of like, the fact that it's the conclusion of a story makes it kind of interesting to me. And one of the ones when you're in K7, well, actually 2 of them, sorry, is that in the mission where you're in present K7, you go down and find that someone had added a module to a computer to store data by basically copying station logs or something at some point around 100 years in the past. Then you go back in time 100 years and attach a module to the computer so that your past self can pick it up. I mean, that was just kind of like this like self-contained story that's told in 2 parts, and there's not really a whole lot to add to that one, but So what do you guys think about the other one?
I haven't quite gotten all the way through them.
Oh, geez, you're a commander. You haven't got through half of them.
Taking it slow.
I guess we better watch what we say.
I actually have 3 Delta recruits, and I've been almost exclusively leveling them by playing missions that have the Delta recruit objectives in them.
Yeah, but if you want that bridge officer, you got to play all of them.
Well, I'm eventually going to play all of them. So what were your thoughts, Marco?
I really like it. It was a great way of getting players in. We've gotten a lot of new members, a lot of alternate characters that were made this week. I spent most of my week this week just inviting people to various fleets. But we did have a lot of fun with it, a lot of teaming of running through missions, so we got a lot more team play going. And it really was the shot in the arm that we need before Season 10.
It's all preparing us for the Iconian War.
Apparently, things have been going so well that this is not the first set of pastries that the dev team has gotten as a reward.
Yeah, I think the higher ups got them junk food too.
Taco mentioned something or other about getting cupcakes on his Flickr.
Yeah.
Let's think that was Flickr.
So I think my favorite of the Delta objectives was the one where, hopefully I'm not going to spoil anything for you, Dragoon. Have you played through Spectres yet?
Yes, that's one of the Davidian missions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the one where you give Scotty the idea to freeze himself in the transporter.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
Oh, that was excellent.
That one was quite good, and I really liked the conversation with the prophets, and that's all I'm gonna say.
That was pretty good too.
Or how about the one where you salvage the recording device from the Drozana computer core and then subsequently place said computer or recording device?
Yeah,
that's the one he was referring to earlier. I laughed out loud when I saw that one.
I love that one. Yeah. Well, one of the other ones that was, I guess you could say, amazingly mundane was the one in the Suliban Helix. Obviously, only Romulan Republic players can do that one, but you go to the Helix in the mission where you pick up Satruk. It's the only one I've seen so far that's actually a space objective, but that's because you never go inside the Helix. That mission is entirely a space mission. But anyways, you interact with one of the cells on the Suliban Helix, and you don't steal it, but the Suliban give you a copy of the temporal database that their mysterious benefactor gave them back when they were making Archer's life miserable.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put as much into the Suliban section of the story. I figured there'd be quite a few little pickups there.
I kind of wish there was more stuff with Suliban in general. I think they sort of they had simple things at first for when you're a low level, and then they sort of ramped it up from there.
And forgot about the Suliban, unfortunately.
One thing that I like, it's made me read all of these. I haven't skipped any of them, and especially the ones that have voiceovers, because on the Romulan side, that's one of Liam McIntyre's characters, and I'm a big Spartacus fan, so that one's been fun. I'm remembering now that Pax Federatica and myself and several others had a Twitter conversation about this and how to, and if we could possibly integrate some of these Delta recruit things into the Foundry itself, like be able to set a Delta recruit objective.
Well, you can't detect whether or not they're a Delta recruit or not.
Well, also, I don't know.
The in-game
We can't, but-
Delta Recruit rewards give you special rewards for completing them because it has a little separate special mini mission tracker for that, which obviously we would not have.
Yeah. Well, to have a reward for it, it'd be very difficult to do it and not have it be abusable and exploitable.
Actually, I'm kind of wondering if we have the Delta symbol available as a special character.
Well, I know you can put special characters in sometimes in the Foundry. Like accents over letters and things like that. I think there's some places where you can't.
Well,
I'm not sure. That we'll have to test that.
Also, I don't think we can color it purple, even if we could put it in. It
No,
but
nice you could color it. You could color it green or yellow, just for emphasis. So I mean, you could do sort of a poor man's version, if we can get that simple.
And then if we get this ability, that would potentially lead to other optional objectives, hopefully.
Optional objectives being one thing that we've longed to have for years. But the other thing is that we were wondering if maybe the temporal agents themselves could be put in as contacts on the social maps and in our NPC tab. I thought maybe, if in lieu of maybe them putting the official ones in, Mark, I know you like to make costumes for the official guys, so maybe you could make some for the Delta officers.
That does sound interesting.
Sounds right.
Well, actually, I'm wondering, I don't think those guys are going to be permanent NPCs on our space dock and all that. I think they're going to disappear after the event.
I think
Very
they are
possible.
They are permanent NPCs because one of the key aspects of the Delta Recruit thing is that once you've completed those missions, every character you ever create after that point will have access to those items that you unlock during the event.
That's a good point. So they're always going to need that vendor there.
Well, they may just move them around then.
Well, I mean, it's not a particularly, I guess you could say, high profile location. They're just kind of like standing next to someone who's a main mission giver, so they're kind of out of the way as is.
But in any
Honestly,
case, I think you're probably right. They will be permanent.
I think it's going to end up being like that NPC that you can talk to in Starfleet Academy who gives you Elisa Flores if you don't have Elisa Flores in your crew. Which basically, if you don't have the option to talk to her, she's just there, and that's that.
Or even the upgrade guy who's still standing on our space dock, even though that event ended 6 or 8 months ago.
Oh, and all the dilithium equipment vendors, all of those things are still in the game. You can actually go to the shipyard in orbit of Kronos, and there's this Gorn whose name is Ship Dilithium Equipment Vendor in the shipyard. You can't interact with him, but he's still there, standing next to a console.
Well, it occurs to me that this particular contact may be used for something else, as we now have an official character from Temporal Investigations. So even if he isn't a contact we can use, we could still use his likeness for such roles.
In any case, we can always create our own officers of temporal intelligence or whichever organizations these things are.
I kind of did that already, because that picture I used for my avatar on the forum is something I made simply because I was screwing around with costumes. And what I did was I made a fake TOS Romulan outfit using costumes that we had back in like season 7, I think it was. And
Yeah, I remember using that outfit scheme that you created for my old TOS episode.
Yeah. Well, for whatever reason, I took one of the things that I actually used for an NPC in the mission, made a duplicate of it, and then added Borg stuff just to see what it would look like. Well, the mission has a reason for you to talk to temporal agents, and what I eventually came up with was to use the costume for a Romulan temporal agent who shows up in the second part of the mission to do something or other.
So Dragoon seems to have found the Delta symbol.
Yes, it is alt code 176. And it does seem to be supported by the Star Trek Online font.
So it's in the chat, or it's able to be put in chat.
Or what you can do is if you hold down the alt, type in 176 on your numpad, and it'll insert it there. Oh, I might not be. I'll have to double check that actual. Okay, in the show notes, I will include the actual proper alt code once I find it.
Excellent.
I had to do it as 0176, and as you noticed by now, it gives me a small circle. But that's actually the one that they use for degrees. But anyway.
Which still could be useful.
Yeah, there's a bunch that you can use that are not on a typical keyboard. But yeah, I will find the...
And those should show up at the Foundry, because I think where I encountered the more restrictions from special characters was in naming a ship in-game. Because I was trying to name a ship after a... Because I was using Lamborghini models for my T6 ships names. And lots of those have accents, because of course they're Italian. So, but unfortunately it wouldn't let me use them in ships, but it will let you use them in the Foundry. So if we can we can use that Delta symbol, so we can have sort of, as I say, poor man versions of Delta objectives. Like you could have a button you can press for something related to the Iconians. If you wanted to stick that in your mission, obviously everybody could see that right now, not just Delta recruits. But that's a way you can sort of join in if you wanted. Unless we get some kind of official version. But unfortunately, we are going to have to cut the show just a little bit short tonight. So we're going to end it here. Dragoon, if you want to throw up our contact info.
Okay. You can be reached at email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We can be also found on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab. And you can, if you follow us on Twitter, you can find out when we go live, when we post shows, or just share things that we think you guys might find interesting. Drogan here can be reached at Drogan1701. Mark can be reached at Markhawkman, and I can be reached at Greendragoon.
And Primar can be reached.
I got Primar 13.
Awesome. All right. Well, happy Delta recruiting for everybody. Until next week, we will say goodnight.
Hold on a sec. Well, I was just tinkering a little bit, and there is actually a triangle symbol in the ASCII code. I haven't tested yet whether the game uses it, but it's something in the really, really low numbers, so I'm not sure if the game would use it for anything.
Yeah, I mean, I found
15 or 16.
I can copy paste it into the game. I haven't found the right alt code for it yet, so I'm going to keep working on that.
Keep working on it. And we will post your findings in the show notes.
Yep. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.